Yeah, and the this is funny because this was everyone wants to talk to Orin Day.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
It's important to note that we also had to have a lot of discussion about what to do about the fleet because our main kind of idea at this point was, all right, we'll get Marinto to the fleet, and then they'll be like, oh, well, Marinto's the one true ruler or whatever of the throne. Okay, we're following Marinto now, but now we didn't have Marinto.
Yeah. We were going to be able to basically like clear out smoke work to the extent possible in the fleet and leave Marinto behind to handle all of the cleanup of that and the backstabbing and the politics and the horror. That's why we were trying to prepare her for inheriting a pretty rough situation, probably.
Right.
And without that, we had no legitimacy. We just kind of had nothing.
Right. And a number of our sailors even were sort of with us on the premise that we were restoring the rightful ruler
Yeah.
to the fleet. So yeah, it was a big part of not just what we were planning to do next, but how we were even planning to maintain order in our crew.
Right.
Yeah.
So we might not have a crew now. We might not have a captain now. We might not even need to go to the fleet now. Like, I remember there were a lot of questions of like, wait, what are we even doing now? Like, what does this mean, Jared?
Yeah.
Well, I remember one thing that we had talked about was, which I think comes up here. So, Oftrong talks with. I remember we were all eating breakfast, and in that moment was kind of the everyone looks at Orin because Oftrong needs to talk to the captain of the ship, and Orin, mouthful of eggs. Oh, yeah, me. What's up? And that they want a full crew before we set sail because we don't have it. And Jared made it clear like there's no way to like get people along the way because we were like, what if we like use a half crew and limp our way up the coast to the next city or town? And he's like, that's not really an option. Like you just don't have enough people to run it. So our two options were go back and get the drunks from the south city, or uh, Yasuke's crew. So I went to talk to Yasuke and basically was like, listen, we know how this works. Your crew works for money, and we need a crew. What are the chances that I can hire your crew and you could use that money to stay behind here and hire a new crew? And Yasuke at first wanted a lot of money, and then I was like, listen, I know how this works. You're not you're not going anywhere right now. You don't have to pay the people that I'm taking because they're like, I have to pay a new crew. I was like, I'm taking your crew. You can spend 2 weeks and not pay anybody. So we talked them down to $2,000 in earrings that I had from the mountain. And this pisses me off because this would have been great to cash in before we were about to do a ship fight. Yasuke owes me a favor, which
Oh,
would have
damn.
been awesome to cash in.
Shit.
So
Yeah,
I'm gonna remember that.
I remember part of your pitch to him was basically like, "Hey, you can't go to Rodan anyway. There's a blockade. Let us just take your crew, and we'll do something stuff with it that we can do despite the blockade. Legal things. Don't worry."
Yeah. And so we end up with an extra 15 sailors that are just hired, so we don't have to worry about their like, but who's gonna be king? It's like they just are working on the ship for money.
So here's actually the story of Thane becoming the old person again and getting sailor's lessons, and then almost getting caught with a high perception check by an NPC, and then I crit my disguise check. We already went over that.
I like that you described Terra as an NPC here.
Okay. At the time, there were so many NPC names. I can't write down every NPC.
You gotta ask Jared for every name and then forget most of them.
Yeah, and then and the ones that I do remember spell wrong, you know.
Like Vane.
I didn't remember until we made this document weeks ago. So
Yeah. Okay, and then so we've been tossing around a lot of solutions for what
the start.
Fuck.
The start of the plan.
Yep. To do with Blackrazor.
Yep.
And Vinaya still couldn't leave the ship.
Yeah, I was still not supposed to leave the ship. Hellhound situations aside.
Yeah. So it's just like, Dailu, go get the best box you can, like the most secure box possible.
Yep.
And I think Darla went to the market and was like, "Who's got a good box
I
here?"
remember Jared asking you, like a trunk. You just want a box?
No, like the best box, like a box that you couldn't get things out of if you wanted to.
He was like, you're in a fishing village, but sure, someone has a trunk lying around.
Yeah, so we finally just got back to the bosun who was repairing our boat, and she was like, "Yeah, I can make a box that's hard to get things out of, but it's gonna delay the repair of the ship." And we're like, "That's fine. This is more important." And also, we'd already cut a lot of time off of the ship leaving anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then Orin and Vane go out and talk in private.
Yes, which the Cliff Notes versions are. Or actually, AJ, if you want to
Yeah,
go
that's
over,
a that's
there's
a
some notes here of the parts that we got through.
yeah, that's actually a really good summary of the chat. With the exception of the like I've been in the
There's more on the
Feywild
next
stuff.
page.
Yeah. Oh. Or okay, I guess I'll just say yeah. He was mentioning to Orn like, hey, you're the leader even if you don't think you're the leader now. You're the captain. You need to be the captain. And Vane's been wanting to be a legend this entire time, but everywhere they go, people like things are set on fire and people die, and he hates how keep lying to people and guards, and he thinks that everyone's been treating Vane like an idiot. And
Somewhere, I'm just like somewhere a ghost walks over Audley's grave, like.
yeah. What is there? I don't want to
If you go
repeat
to the
anything
next
if
page,
there's next
there's
page.
more. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. He mentions that he really cares about his brother. That he thinks that the Fey Anchorstone. He thinks he's found a way to use the Fey Anchorstone to make to release the bindings on the people that are kind of converted into zombie plant people. But that he only is going to have a couple of uses of that. His brother, Lenity Menthaliara, or Lenny for short, and he says he's definitely going to preserve one use of that for his brother, and that that he's willing to use those any other uses he can for other reasons. And he says that we needed to do something about Blackrazor.
That's right. Yeah, that's the thing I was talking about. So I had a plan that I was talking with Jared at the time, where I just told Vane, I have a plan for Blackrazor, and then we got cut off because this was like going to be an hour and a half conversation that we ended up recording separately, and so we paused it for there. But I was thinking about taking Dispel Magic, and I was talking with Jared like if there's a way that I can use Dispel Magic. The spell that I want to give up is I had a spell called Shadow Blade at the time, which allowed me to cast a spell, and I was holding a Shadow Blade. I was like, if I would like to, if we could, what's the word I'm looking for? Flavor it. So like I use getting rid of Shadow Blade and Dispel Magic together, and is there some way that I can make a check to try and like just kill Blackrazor? And so that was on the table, but didn't get super far for reasons that will become apparent as we move on. But
And then Winter, the hero that we needed.
Yes, Osprey and Winter's Storm show up like very excited because they have teamed up to create a super box.
Impenetrable box.
Yeah. And then it
worth noting, I believe both Osprey and Winter are halflings or gnomes. Halflings.
I think
I
halflings.
thought Winter was a gnome.
No, that's right. Yes, Winter is a gnome. I don't remember what Osprey was, but they were both not strong people.
Decent chance of them both being gnomes.
Winter is a gnome, and Osprey. Oh, come on. I don't have it here.
I don't think we have Osprey on the main list.
Osprey's not an officer? Oh, that's why.
No,
Osprey was the one that lived in town that we replaced with Tarn.
Well, then it doesn't matter now, does it?
Either way, they were both small and not particularly strong.
relevant because as soon as Vinaya tried to open the box, it just opened. Like Vinaya was able to open it, and nobody else.
And I is kind of strong, you guys.
And
Yeah, nobody
notably,
else could open
the
it.
one person that we most needed to be able to prevent opening this box was Vinaya.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
I think we may skip a little bit of the. We have them go back and try again, and we end
Mhm.
up getting something that Vinaya can't open, and none of us can move, and it has to be like lowered onto the ship with a crane.
Right. So I
Yeah.
think in addition to making the box stronger and harder to open, we fill it with concrete once
Yes.
Blackrazor has been put inside it.
Yep.
There's a whole conversation there that I don't think I've described to you all very much.
Correct, yeah.
You should, because it sounds juicy.
It was fucking juicy. It was very sad.
Oh no.
And once again, I'm in the position of not being able to remember a lot of the word for word, the really good stuff. But first of all, I do want to point out. So this was the very first session that I had brought my absolutely beautiful trans pride flag dice, and I'd used one of those d20s on this roll. And it was the first time I think that I had rolled this particular die, and it was a net. It was a nat 20.
Pride dice are strong. Hell yeah.
They are
So
strong.
powerful.
They're so
You'd had,
strong.
oh my god, quick sidebar is that I remember in June of 2019, so this was last year, which was what right at the beginning of us going into Kundrakar for the second time. The first session, it was June, it was Pride Month, and the Pride dice were unstoppable.
They
It was
were
like totally in the zone.
Hell yeah.
absolutely
July
wild.
And the party dies. It was like
Yeah.
the month flipped over. It was like, well, and you lost that buff.
Oh.
Whoops.
Yep. No, they were
TPK.
the
TPK.
first session where it was June and I had gotten Pride dice, right? I think just rainbow dice. I rolled so many nat 20s. I think
Yeah, it's unstoppable.
because I think Devin, you also had rainbow dice at that time, and we were both just
Yeah.
rolling ridiculous numbers of crits with them.
Yeah. 100%.
It was really incredible. Yeah, and then immediately next month he got murdered. I think
It's also
it
helpful
was
that
2018, not 2019, right? Because
No, because it was
no,
this
it would have
was
been
last year.
2019 because I got my Pride dice at the Renaissance Festival before y'all went with me the second time.
Oh man.
And it was also awesome that the nat 20 was also to like. Not only was it your first roll with your Pride dice, but it was also to like, all right, here's the chance to put Blackrazor.
Yeah, it was one of the most important roles of Vinaya's whole like D&D career as far as individual roles go. So yeah, but I mean, like the thing that killed me so much is just that Blackrazor was so genuinely like sad and disappointed, and they had said like there was so much I could have taught you, and of course Vinaya's response is basically the same. Like, no, that there's so much that I could have taught you, because that's what Vinaya wants to do ultimately is redeem this thing.
I remember you
and
describing to me like that there was a sense of like you had broken Blackrazor's
A
spirit
bit.
to an extent. Like you
A
had
little bit.
kind of broken this sword's heart a little.
Yeah, right. And yeah, Paul sums in the notes that yeah, Blackrazor said it would let me destroy it. Well, there was an exchange that was that was like, well, I guess this is it. I guess it is. I guess there's no other choice. Specifically, Blackrazor saying, conveying that I had not really left them a choice, which is the worst because clearly there is a choice, right? It's just not one that Blackrazor is willing to make. Jared,
This
if
was
you're
also where we
listening,
started to really feel bad because like the a little bit of tipping before and this moment after where it's like, oh, this is a thing. Um, was and knowing that had we not fed it, which is not on Vanaya, it's on Tracy, because all of us were kind of like, yeah, give it the Hellhound, like that'll tide it over. Like giving it that such like high octane soul energy was what really kind of reset it back to like, no, fuck you, I am this thing, that just the
Yep.
destroyer of souls, and that's what I want to be. And so knowing that like not only was it possibly an option for not to not be this way, but it was our fault that it was tough.
Yeah.
I also want to, as a more light-hearted Blackrazor note, Tracy, you've described previously that your conversations with Blackrazor, we hear one side of them because Vanaya just speaks.
Yes, I think if she really wanted to, and if she were a bit more conscious of it, yeah, she could have those conversations just in her head. But she kind of doesn't think about it because she's just talking to somebody, right? So, assuming that she is standing near you all when she's having these conversations, yes, you do hear Vanaya's side.
Vanaya on the phone with the death sword.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Just walking down the road. No soul right now. No soul.
yeah.
No, I won't
Yes.
let you stab Thane.
Vanaya
He's
is
not that
basically
suspicious.
Vanaya and Blackrazor is like Eddie Brock and Venom, just like, well, you can't eat them. No, not right now.
Oh no!
Will you
Oh
take a
no!
lobster? Like, can we do
You're
that?
right. You're right. Oh, this is killing me. Oh, that's
Yeah,
so good. In another
the
universe. Oh, that's so good.
Another light.
That's the Marvel AU that Torchline deserves.
Aw.
the other important thing to note is that while we were we put the sword we put Blackrazor in the box, but we also like poured mortar in the
Yes.
box with it, so it's like
Yes.
basically in fantasy concrete. I don't know
Yes.
why I said that. Mortar is a real thing, but anyways, it's in a block of stone. As we're doing this, Whelm and Wave are crying and just kind of weeping.
Mm-hmm.
we
And
we also
I think
put
it was
we also put concrete on the outside of the box.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sealed this thing up.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
that we coded it so much as you. Maybe we did.
We did, and we
think we
sealed it to
did.
the
Okay.
deck
I
also
think
with the
Jared made a
concrete.
note of like it's
It's
not
not-
going to do like it's not in a block like what you're probably imagining, but it's on there and it dries and it adds. a
Yeah,
little
it's
bit
like
of extra.
splotched onto
Right,
the
and
deck.
it's not sealed to the deck. Remember, because we are able to move it to the other ship
Yeah.
when we change ships.
I
But it's
think
just
it
not something
actually
that anyone can
was.
move.
It's so heavy that a person cannot, even Vinaya can't like lift it.
I
Because
feel
remember,
like
I have to take the potion of growth to move
I
it from one ship
actually-
to the other.
I actually think there was. And I might be misremembering, but I think Winterstorm also put some kind of enchantment on it to keep it sealed to the deck because we were worried about it falling off of the ship somehow. So, and I think
I don't know. I'm
because
not
I think
sure.
when we transferred it between ships, Winterstorm was still aboard. So I think
Oh.
that was part of
Oh.
that.
Yeah.
We were like not
Hmm.
taking any chances with anyone being able to access this sword ever
You
again.
are right. Eh.
And so the thing that this is the start of what made me kind of start abandoning the plan with me killing Blackrazor was the way that Wave described it is it's like when someone bad dies and you think what a waste of a person. Or was that your line? I have a different thing that I remember. I don't remember if that was a Wave thing, or if it was a Tracy
I
thing.
think that was what.
It was not me.
That was from Jared.
Okay, so that was either Whelm or Wave. I don't remember, but I remember asking Wave like, what would you do with something like Blackrazor? And Wave was like, I would buy them a drink, and just kind of like the idea being that like talk to them, like they,
Mhm.
and that's when I also stopped referring to the weapons as its and
Yeah.
started referring to it as thems. And that's when I was like, well, okay, yeah, like it's the line that comes up when in the Dailu and Orin conversation later. The thing that kind of wave planted in my head is like, when do you at what point do you give up on a person and just kind of like abandon them to death and solitude, and how long do you like fight to try and pull them back from wherever they are? And so I was like, all right, well, I'll take a different spell, and so I don't have the spell magic because that went away.
Something I thought of now, which is super late, is did we ever ask Blackrazor how it was in the mountain for so long without eating?
I feel like I did maybe not ask that directly, but I have said to Blackrazor, like it's clear that you don't physiologically need to eat to survive because you were under that mountain for however long without being fed. And I think the answer didn't matter.
And
Yeah, I think it's just like I don't need this to not die, but I need it.
Right. And that's valid, right? Cuz like we don't need to leave our houses to survive, but hey, boy, this
Aw.
fucking sucks, huh?
I think-
Yeah.
Like we
And-
don't need it to have our hearts continue beating, but people can't live like this.
in my head
Also.
canon, Karatus was feeding it. Like it wasn't
That's
it wasn't
That's
definitely
sealed.
possible.
Like
It was in a chest under the bed.
I do remember at one point
I
Jared
don't
mentioned
know.
the idea that like Blackrazor's thing was like, yeah, it fucking sucked. I don't.
Mhm.
That's not an option that you have with me. Like you can't.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just gonna not do that because it was awful,
Right.
and I do want to eat things.
Yeah.
Even so, that would be possible, AJ. Like, yeah, he could have been
Oh,
doing
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean it's clearly possible because Blackrazor has been in a box for 100+ days, and while he's bitched about it a little bit, it's clearly they are doing okay.
Still in
Well, I take that back.
there. Put a pin in that.
and
Fair
and that's
enough.
kind of where I'm coming from is like Blackrazor didn't come out swinging when you picked it up too much. I guess you did feed it right away as Thane.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
we did.
true.
Yeah.
So it's hard to
Also,
know.
Like, I think the big thing right now is like when we found Blackrazor, we didn't put it in that box. We were the saviors. Right now, we put Blackrazor in that box, and so
Wow.
it's not like a big favor that we let it out of its prison.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I also got the impression that like the 3 days wasn't necessarily like an inherent sort of specific need, but that was like the timeline that was kind of agreed upon was like I refuse to go more than 3 of your days without eating. Like
Mhm.
It's like getting
That-
hungry, right? It's like it's been this time. I am now hungry right now. Let's do it.
yeah,
Right,
it always
like-
looked to me less as a like specific cycle and more like Blackrazor being like, "This is my line in the sand. You will feed me every 3 days."
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is also where, and Dylan, you can speak to this.
Meanwhile,
Oh, sorry. If it's
Oh.
okay, I wanted to note.
Yeah.
We've described Blackrazor in pretty negative terms because we are looking out at its morality, looking in at it from outside. But its description of its morality was that everything needs to return to the void eventually, and that it's helping everything along to get there.
Mhm.
So it doesn't believe it's doing anything wrong and could be described as doing the right thing by doing that.
Yeah.
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 And it has also been described as taking extreme pleasure from the act as well, which
Yeah.
seems a lot more compelling than its purported morality.
Yeah.
It feels like it's not an evil object; it's a bad object. I think that's why we were so on the edge with it. It's like you're bad, but are you evil? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of evil, you guys. I mean, I'm
I mean,
not
now
saying
it
that
is.
I think it always. I mean,
I still wanted to stab things with it.
We can and will talk about the like. Sorry, that was about to sound like me ushering us on to the next thing. It's not. I was gonna say we can and will talk about the morality of Blackrazor forever
we can.
because like that's the point. Like that's the reason our characters did it forever. Jared made a thing that was so on the edge of like clearly this is wrong, but is the thing doing it wrong or is the act wrong? And we've gone back and forth forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually want to mention that both that Blackrazor, Whelm, and Wave are all magical items made by Wizards of the Coast that we are avoiding information on because we're trying not to be spoiled, as Jared has requested. So there is information on them out there beyond
Yeah, I
our.
remember-
The truth is out there.
I remember
They're
at
from
some
the
point.
original White Plume Mountain
Yeah.
module.
Yeah.
So these are first edition items that have been in D&D forever, and they are artifacts. I remember at one point during this arc stumbling on some like rando D&D article like items you as a DM should not give to your players, and at the end it's like artifacts like Blackrazor, Wave, and Whelm, because they will just fuck your party right up. And I was like,
Truth.
we want that, we love that,
Dude.
get us. And it is still
Mhm.
incredible to me that how well those items have lined up with the characters who received them. Like the
Oh
fact,
yeah.
Right?
like Wave's backstory with Orin, and the fact that Vinaya is a paladin who believes in a cycle of reincarnation where things are
Yeah.
eventually achieving an enlightenment, and Blackrazor is this dark mirror of that, of like, yes, everything's returning to the void. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's so good.
It's
And
too
even
good.
Sato and
It's
Whelm, we don't
wonderful.
talk about it a lot, but like there's a lot like Sato is an air genasi who flies through the air and hits things, and Whelm is like, please put me in the ground, and Sato is like, you know, combat and battle, and that does line up really well with Wade, but like combat and battle forward onto things, and where it lines up with Whelm. He's like forward onto things, and Whelm is like, or we could sit here and wait for them to come to us in the cave. And
Yeah.
there's been a lot of back and forth with that.
Mhm.
And Whelm is like the gentlest of all of the artifacts we've discovered, and Whelm just
Until you mention giants.
yeah.
I am still waiting for the other shoe to drop with Whelm. I'm so worried about it.
I mean, giving you
been a while.
disadvantage in every single thing you do is a pretty big shoe.
it's not bad enough because Sato
it's-
still has like a +12 to hit with it.
And a will.
Bad. It's awful, but it's also and I think I do see what you mean also, because it's not like emotionally compromising. It's just mechanically compromising.
There are also things though that happened in the extra dimensional spaces that we'll get to as we kind of go through these things with Whelm that I was there with, that I could speak to, as far as like there are. I feel like there might be another shoe dropping at some point in the future. I don't know what it's going to look like, but some things happened in there that changed their dynamic a little bit.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Plus, is there any? There's no detriment when you're like, fighting at night, fighting in a cave, fighting in an eternal storm. Like, no downside.
True.
When would that
True.
happen? Who would be fighting in an eternal storm?
I know. What's the likelihood?
All
right. Moving on. Yeah, it's been like an hour.
I can do like if it's cool if we go up to the part where we kind of set sail and get that pulse in the water, and then I've got to call it for the evening. Is that
Yeah,
fine
I
with
think
everybody?
Sounds good to
I
me.
think we're right around the corner from that. I think.
It's the next page, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be like 3 more hours, then we'll be good.
Yeah. So Dialu. This is like right after Marinto leaves. Dialu has been drinking too much in this arc. Dialu is just kind of like, I remember her being furious that this was the solution to Blackrazor. Like, after all this,
Fair.
an innocent person was murdered. We've been yelling at each other for a month straight. And at the end of it, we put it in a fucking box and covered it in like it was just like this was the final straw. And hearing for Dailu, there was no moral ambiguity. I think particularly once she saw Thane taken over by it, it was like, oh no, this thing needs to fucking go. And so seeing this sort of like atmosphere of like it became very somber with the party of like, ugh, like this is kind of it went from like, oh my god, we're so smart, we're gonna put it in a box, cover it in cement. And Dailu was still on that page of like, fucking finally, yes, we're gonna cover it in cement. And everyone else was like, this is becoming a somber thing. And I was like, no, it's not. This is so simple. We put it in a box.
I think
we
Vane
get
was
rid
on
of
the
it.
same page as Dailu in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're free. And I need those notes. Secret. Oh yes, and she was still like losing it about Marinto. And yeah, Thane was like, "You okay?" And Dailu was like, "No, I don't want to talk about it."
At which point,
Oren,
Oren
you want to
decides
justify
that
your
Oren
reaction?
wanted to talk about it.
Because who
It
dare
kind
have
of
secrets
also-
on my ship?
Also, Oren, I think at the moment I justified it as like, I read Thane's mind, and then Dailu read my mind. But that doesn't seem even. So if Thane wants to read my mind, he can do that and we'll be even. And I owe one to Dailu, so I'm going to read Dailu's mind. And so I got from the surface thoughts, I think it was Dailu was sad about Marinto. Like, that was the thing that you delivered, just as like, this is what you get for free. I probed deeper, and you failed this time. What do you want to share about that?
I think I'm gonna share the stuff that has been shared with most of the party at this point, and then there's one more thing that I think will be more interesting to talk about when it actually comes up with the party, because so far it has never been said at the table. But so what Oren got from Dailu was that she was a former Smokework agent. She had always presented it as kind of like, oh yeah, me and Thane, both, secret agents for the Daggers. But in reality, she was not a secret agent for the Daggers until much later, and had worked for Smokework for years and done a lot of bad things for Smokework.
This is info that Oren has?
Yes.
Dang!
Yes.
Holy crap, okay.
And so he and Oren got even more than that. Oren got like just sort of a diary of Dailu's deepest, worst regrets.
Oren knows more than Thane.
Oren knows things Thane doesn't know.
No, Oren knows less than Thane, but I'm surprised that Oren knows this. Not that
Yeah.
Thane knows that Oren knows this.
Oren knows less than Thane. I'm not going to spoil anything, but like, or sorry, Oren knows more than Thane.
So
Okay.
yeah. So I'm trying to think if there was more than that, but it was essentially like he got sort of the emotional cocktail of that of like
Yeah. I think
Dailu's.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe kind of the Cliff Notes version that doesn't spoil anything but gives the emotional feeling is that like Dailu's leaving was kind of a betrayal in a way of kind of like responsibility. Is that accurate? Am I misremembering
Yes.
that?
You said Dailu's leaving, but you meant Marinto's leaving.
Sorry, Marinto's leaving was
Okay.
yeah.
Yes. But that also fits with a thing with Dailu of like essentially she feels responsible for some extremely bad things, and that she is nowhere near truly taking responsibility for those things. We're making up for them, and is just like a little tornado of guilt and self-loathing. Okay, the other thing that he got was that she was keeping this from the group on the assumption that the moment this came out, she would be donezo. Like that there was no way that if they found out she was a former Smokework operative that that they weren't going to throw her out in the street, and also a sense of like, I'm going to ruin this for Thane too. This is already a shaky dynamic. Like I am the problem, and I am going to destroy this for Thane, who has done nothing wrong in his entire life.
Thane would go with you if you ever got kicked out of the group.
I know. but she would feel
I think
really
that's
bad.
kind of the fear, though, is that
Yes,
Tyler's going to be
like,
the reason that Thane also leaves the group.
yeah. So she tried to punch Orin in the face because Detect Thoughts is the only spell that Tyloo understands, and she knows it's a concentration spell, and she was trying to break his concentration and also punch him in the face for reading her mind. Missed, ran off,
Small, and she had no sword.
yeah, bolts, and they asked Orin, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to talk about it?
I think it was like a more sassy version. Like, do you want to talk about what happened?
Yeah, because it was.
And I was like, no, and then
I think it was clear to everyone what it. Well, was it, or was it just sort of a like?
I mean,
Orin
it's one of
goes
the things that
da 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 da, and Tyloo swings around and tries to hit him.
I don't remember because it was one of those blurry things where like everybody at the table, we weren't doing secret conversations, so everybody at the table knew it just happened, and I don't
Yeah.
think we ever clarified exactly about what was.
Yeah. So the next morning, Tyloo has not come back to the ship. Like I said, like at this point, she assumes, okay, Orin knows that this is over, and
Aw.
has bolted. I think Orin and Thane went to look for her.
Yeah, Tracy, Vinaya cast Find Object to locate kind of vaguely where you were, like on your pants or something. I don't remember. And then Vane and I both decided separately. I mean, we went together, but for very separate reasons. Of like, I'll be the one to help Tyloo.
Yeah, I love
And-
this next note.
Yeah, Thane's like, give her space, and Orin grabs some alcohol and dimension doors into the room at the top of the inn that she is hiding in.
Yeah, she's
And
gone and like stayed at the tavern and tried to pay off the person downstairs to be like, don't tell anyone I'm here. And then Orin walked in. I don't remember if he threatened him or just slapped more money on the counter.
neither I dimension doored into the space that I knew you were in. Like I just spammed.
You were just like,
Well, you're sitting in there.
Yeah.
yeah.
You're sitting in there, and I poofed in, and we had a very brief of you just like.
Tyloo, I
kind of-
believe, tried to climb out the window, and
It's
Orin was like, this is unnecessary.
Yeah, the whole conversation I have with you halfway out the window, where I basically very poorly tried to reassure you that everything was fine, and you didn't want to talk, and I tried to talk some more, and you still didn't want to talk, so I left the alcohol, or I think I handed you the alcohol, and you took it while still in the window, and then I left, and then that was kind of the end of that.
Yeah, I remember the other piece of why Tyloo reacted so badly to that was also because in terms of like her involvement in Smokework, she knows some very bad things she was involved in, and she doesn't know what her work sort of snowballed to. Like she smuggled weapons, she did all kinds of stuff, and so she had read Orin's mind and seen like his crew being murdered by Smokework agents, and to her that's like, did I contribute to this? Maybe, on a global scale, like, yeah, maybe I fed into the murder of Orin's crew. So the moment she knew he had that information, she was like,
It was another one of those moments because when Diley read my mind, I was just kind of typing out some basic stuff, and then the conversation continued, and somebody said a trigger word about like something that was just like, well, that would actually make Orin think about all these things. I think it was a similar thing where I was like, Diley was looking like she feels a certain way, and I'm like, I'll read her mind because that'll be funny. And it just also happened to be like, well, what my character would be thinking about right now is all this shit and what it means.
And I think I put something in there sort of like, this is kind of always in Diloo's head anyway, and there's always like a thread leading to that. And honestly, I think she's undisciplined enough with her thoughts that the revelation that someone was reading her thoughts would read directly into like, wow, I hope they don't find out about the like everything. But yeah, and I think Orin was trying to talk to her and be like, no, we're not done. Like, where are you going? What are you doing? Like, come back to the boat, sort of a deal. And it was just like, no, but I'm a monster, and now you know this, and I have to go. And Orin's like, no, you need to take this and have a drink, and then come back when
You
you
need to get back to work because
Yeah.
you need to do things on the ship.
you have to finish your sailing lessons, and you didn't. Oh, that was why people were worried. Was she didn't show up for sailing class. So yeah, that thread will return later. There's also a transcript of a conversation that canonically happened at an unclear time between Dailu and Orin, where they went deeper into all of this, but it happens after we set sail, but like at an unspecified time because we didn't have it in character. I mean, we had it in character. We did not have it at the table. We met up at Devon's house and talked for 2 hours as our characters, which was great. It was the first time we did one of those, and now we've done a bunch of them, and it makes me
Remember when we could meet people at their houses?
happy. Aww.
Ah,
Soon.
No, I've
Soon.
forgotten.
I've forgotten.
Someday.
Anyway.
After that, we train. Everybody trains some more on the ship. Food is delivered to the town, and we get our cut of it for our journey. The old man says goodbye, thank you for trading me, and then Thane shows up and says, "See, I knew knots and is proficient in water vehicles."
Yeah, I think at this point, Vane, Thane, and Dailu gain water vehicle proficiency, and Sato was not doing ship stuff. I
I
think.
still don't think Sato has water vehicle.
I think Sato still does not actually. Yeah, and then I think Vinaya got it during some event where we started helping with sailing more. That's
I
my memory.
can't remember.
I think
Sounds
I think Vinaya and anybody who didn't get it here did end up getting it, but they spent some time while we were on the water training,
Yeah.
and so after now, other people get it,
Yep.
so that we end up getting everybody.
So-
We finished the repairs. We set sail. Blackrazor is a centerpiece on the ship, and it's situated in a way that it won't. I think it means
I don't
shift or
finish
move.
that thought, but it's so that it won't be so it won't slide off our ship when we like turn. So I don't know if we ever did get it
Right.
affixed to the ship.
I don't remember.
I think maybe it's situated in a way that won't like be in our way as we're moving around trying to do things. Yeah, I remember we had to use a big old crane to move it from shore onto the deck.
Yeah. Oh, this fucking omen.
Yeah, the last big thing before we wrap up is about 300 feet out as we set sail. Our ship pulses kind of Pirates of the Caribbean style, and a huge wave comes out from our ship just in all directions. Black clouds in the distance form a 5-pointed crown, and then disappears ahead of us in the direction that we're going. I do an Arcana check, and Jared says this is a bad omen. Orin, out loud, as everyone sees this, just goes, "That's an omen," and then we continue sailing. And we find out that it means that of our 4 magical items, the 3 weapons and the anchor stone, it says had a piece of it leave and return back to Roden. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Well, he
I don't
suspects that it was
understand
the
it.
anchor stone. I don't know what it means either.
Yeah, I believe what this was at least one of our magic items was a piece of something larger that is on Roden.
Well,
Um,
all of our
and something
weapons
was calling it
not-
back.
Yeah.
Interesting.
See, now that we know the origin of our weapons, I'm like, they kind of all originated with Echo, who is presumably on Roden.
They're not, no, because not all of them were created in Roden.
Part of me wanted to be like, oh, it was Blackrazor, but you said that it's done stuff since then, so maybe not.
Blackrazor still talks.
Yeah,
kicking.
so never mind.
So, but I'm not sure that I mean, we don't know how big of a part left. I don't know.
I don't remember. I don't remember if this ended up being the wave thing or if it's something that hasn't come to bear yet. But
It hasn't
either way-
clearly kind of manifested.
what was that?
It is not clearly manifested. It could have been Echo reaching out to the weapons. It could have been that there's some larger anchor stone on Roden calling out to the smaller anchor stone.
Hate that.
Who
Alright.
knows?
I wanna learn from past mistakes. AJ, if you had to make one guess right now, what would you say is the thing that it was?
I would still say that it has to do with the Anchor Stone and Echo.
Alright, guys, I bet you it has to do with the Anchor Stone and Echo. AJ's always been
agree.
right. He's never led us astray. By the way, AJ's great. It's recorded in the middle now, AJ. You can't get rid of it.
Oh, you're so mean.
I am mean. I'm the
Cool.
meanest.
Yeah, then we to wrap it up, we fly the Makunin merchant flag, just the general like I am a merchant from this continent. Vane Thane and Dailu have jobs on the ship since they got the training, and I am reluctantly captaining.
Reluctantly.
Both
Yeah,
Devin
he's
and
really
Lauren
blue
at that
about
point
it.
We're reluctantly captaining. I'm very blue about it.
Yeah. Tyler and Thane and Vane, I think we're all at this point just like sailors, just
Yep.
basic learning the ropes, literally doing sailor stuff.
Competently
rest of it is
utilizing
for
the
next
ropes.
time.